Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the Doomcast. I'm your regular host, Dan Upton, and this week I'm joined by a very good friend and fellow comedian, Justin Bulver. We're going to talk about Absolute Flash. I'm very stoked because I don't have a lot of comedian friends that are as current with comics as I tend to be. So it's very exciting when somebody messages me, like Justin did last week, and he's like, "Hey, are you picking up Absolute Flash?" And I was like, "You bet your sweet bippy I'm picking up Jeff Lemire's Absolute Flash." So today we're going to talk about it because I loved it and I was pretty impressed. Uh, Before we get started, Justin, do you want to tell the people at home, because there's people at home, people actually watch this dumb thing now. Tell people a little bit about yourself.
That's great. I'm glad that you've been able to create and grow this organic audience of people who love kind of the same stuff that you do. Dan, we've known each other for like over 10 years.
Yeah,
Mostly
yeah, that's
through
crazy.
doing doing comedy and hanging out and doing other comedy adjacent stuff, including comic book type stuff. So we've been doing a lot of shows together, a lot of just fun, kind of wacky, different stuff together. Lots of cool stuff like that. Seeing you at different cons, things like that. So we've had a lot of cool different trips and things that we've done.
Oh yeah, we have.
But I am not as current as you in terms of comic books, but the Flash is my favorite character. And so when I heard they were doing Absolute Flash, I was able to kind of give myself a chance to kind of dive back in. I originally read Flash and got really deep into it in the 2000s during the Jeff Johns run. So that was like the Ignition storyline. Jeff Johns at that point was writing Flash. He was writing JSA. He was writing Green Lantern. And I really kind of fell into that and had a great time with it. Sort of fell out of superhero books kind of in general. Reading a lot of more independent stuff. I still love that stuff. Reading more like stuff like Sandman, stuff like Jimmy Corrigan, stuff like Blankets, which is really beautiful. But still loving superhero stuff and the big two, and reading a lot of various things in that world, but being really stoked and hyped for the Absolute Universe and what it kind of means for DC, because I love DC.
Hell yeah, I love DC also. Also, I missed Blankets. So you name dropped it. You're gonna have to bring me up to speed. What is Blankets?
Oh, Blankets is by Craig Thompson. He did like Chucky Rice, BB. It's a black and white graphic novel that's not serialized. He just wrote it as a graphic novel. Really, really beautiful coming of age story about kind of him kind of growing up in Wisconsin and kind of his journey, his relationship with girl, relationship with his family, relationship with God. Really, really cool stuff. Really, really personal. One of my favorite all-time graphic novels. Probably my number 2 right after Watchmen. So really, really beautiful. Can't recommend enough. I'll loan it to you.
Sick. Okay. I'm gonna have to. I have a bunch of the DC Compact comics that I've been picking up recently. But I've also picked up a couple of other graphic novels too. So we could trade a couple of these back and forth here. I just got the enormously intimidating East of West End Times Compendium, which is like every one of the, I think it was like close to 60 plus issues. Maybe it was just 60. Anyway, it's thick, but it's cool. Okay, so let's jump into, first of all, you kind of set the base of Flash fandom. Mine also started roughly in the 2000s, but a touch earlier. Um, I started picking up maybe in the mid to late 90s, back when Mark Waid was writing Flash with
Hmm.
like Barry and Bart Allen, and you'd have,
Impulse.
or sorry, Impulse, not Barry, Wally was the main Flash, and then Wally appeared as the main Flash in Justice League in the Grant Morrison 2000s weirdness. Um, but yeah, once Jeff Johns brought Barry back, that was a big deal at the time. And then Wally just kind of got sidelined for a
Well,
long time, which sucked.
there was Final Crisis. There was this whole thing, or was that Infinite Crisis? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, you are right. Final Crisis was a whole thing, and it was like
And
concurrent to them bringing Barry back, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
and so there was this sort of huge shift where Wally just kind of goes away. Now Barry, who went away the first time in Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was one of the biggest things in the history of comics,
Oh yeah, it was
um,
huge.
that was this sort of kind of huge rebirth, and it set the stage for a sort of kind of comeback of Silver Age, I think, in general, with kind of Hal Jordan coming back. I mean, there's all this different stuff going on.
It's wild that they had basically, like, they killed off in Crisis, which was like 84, 85, and then they
Hmm.
brought him back in 2006 or 2009,
Yeah,
maybe
I think it was
somewhere in there,
later.
but it was like 20 or 25 years, which is wild to me to think about conceptually, because if he was only gone for like 20 or 25 years, um, like that's the distance between now and 2000,
Yeah.
and that sort of boggles my mind, thinking
Hmm.
like that's the distance between when they undid Peter Parker being married to Mary Jane and
Yeah.
now, almost. And anyway, yeah, they brought him back, and it was like it was a huge deal, but it was also wild that like Wally ended up getting sidelined. I don't know if you've read Tom King's Heroes in Crisis. Um, I That's the only Tom King book that like in DC that I have like any kind of real reservations about, because like everything else that Tom King's done, I've loved all of it, and it's always been a lot of fun. And Heroes in Crisis has a less than stellar ending for Wally, uh, which is wild. They did that kind of in the middle of the rebirth, convergence stuff, whatever.
Hmm.
Anyway, so Absolute Flash, let's dive into, because we're already
Let's
like
talk
a few
about it.
minutes in. Yeah, okay, sick. Because I was really, frankly, impressed. I am not familiar with Nick Robles's art as much as I probably should be. Now I'm really impressed. But here's the thing: one of my big reservations, and I don't know how familiar you are with Jeff Lemire.
So I
His
have.
Oh yeah, hit me.
So I read a little bit of Sweet Tooth. I didn't dive too deeply into it. Um, but I think um I'm more impressed by just the fact that he is a fan of the Flash and he loves Wally West. For me, I think that is key when you are taking on a character that is so prominent, not only within the DC universe, but like culture overall. Just to
Oh
have someone
yeah,
who like really cares about the character. I think that's huge. I think that's more meaningful than um, just like being a good writer. Because writing good dialogue is great, but if you actually care about these characters, you know what this guy would say, or you have an idea of what this guy is, what this guy means to people. And I think that to me gave me a lot of hope going into this, knowing that he's a Wally West guy. He's going to treat it with the respect that it deserves.
that's I'm really encouraged hearing you say that, because that's one of the main reasons why I picked it up, because I've read um Sweet Tooth, yes.
Yeah.
Some of Jeff Lemire's other indie stuff has really hit with me. Phantom Road, really good. 10,000 Black Feathers. There's Fish Flies, Gideon Falls. There's a bunch of stuff that he's done that's indie stuff.
Mhm.
That's sort of not homey, but like you can tell it's semi autobiographical, and
Mhm.
that resonates. A lot of his other individual like franchise stuff, like if he's writing a character that's already like Marvel or DC, has not hit with me very well.
It's interesting you say that because to me, this read for Absolute Flash 1 felt short. It felt like a fast
Yeah,
read.
it was.
Um, and I know there's some setup there. I know there's some background, but I felt like we're just kind of dipping our toes a little bit. It
Yeah.
felt like we didn't really get a whole lot. And I know it's the first issue. I get it, but I felt like it should have gone maybe a little slower in some parts
Well, there's
to
immediately a
try to
bunch
get.
of loose threads. I agree.
Yeah. Are we ready to go to spoilers?
Uh, yeah, I feel like we're safe doing
Got
spoilers
it.
at this point. Just a fair
Yeah.
warning to anybody who has not yet read this. We're going to spoil some stuff talking about it.
Pick it up.
Um, but yeah, you should definitely pick it up. But also, it's good. It's worth reading. But we're about to spoil some of that shit right now. Go for it, buddy.
For me, seeing Barry Allen in Absolute Flash was still a surprise. And at first, I was like ready for a world where Wally was the guy, the only guy, and having a kind of universe kind of built around him as a young speedster, kind of getting his own kind of story arc, getting his own kind of origin, getting his own villains. And seeing Barry, I was like, oh man, is this going to be a gimmick? Is he going to be like his Kid Flash? Is he going to be his mentor? What's this going to be like? And then we get to a point to where like, oh, Barry's not going to be in this at all because Barry Allen is dead again already. What
Yeah.
does this mean? And
Right off the bat,
to,
man.
to me, it felt almost like, man, they bring him back just for that. It's almost like disappointing. Um, so I feel bad. I feel bad for Barry Allen. I feel bad for this guy. Now, at the same time, I always feel like it's almost like kind of cheap to where you have this huge opportunity to create this something totally new. And I don't know if it's like you feel like you have some fan service that you have to have these other guys. And I think other franchises have this too, to where if it's Star Wars, you've always got to have some other Skywalker in there. These sort of echoes of the original franchise. So maybe there's just some of that pressure there to have a guy like Barry in it just to kind of be there. Um, but it was kind of weird to be like, oh, they're gonna have Barry in here. Well, let's see where this goes. Oh, it's going nowhere. Dang, you know. What do you think? How do you feel?
I I think they're going to do more with that.
I could see it.
Because I mean, it's either one of two things. It's either going to be a catalyst for Wally of like, oh, I had this mentor, and oh, holy cow, now I, I mean, a mentor in whatever capacity he even was, because it was just like he, Barry basically just tried to be like, oh, you don't have to feel bad about everything, considering the fact that you bounced around as an army brat. You seem like a smart guy. Here's some others. I want to show you some of the science that we're doing on these projects or whatever. And then he breaks in and ends up seeing Barry get. I don't know exactly what he was doing. It looks like it was like a variation of maybe the cosmic treadmill thing, and he was trying to hold this project together and ended up getting killed by it. But he had like the Flash costume underneath. So was that what he
Mm,
was? Did he already also have Speed Force powers? Was he trying to contain the Speed Force in what he was doing? Is that where the speed itself is actually going to come from, or what? The other thing that I thought was great, speaking of like bringing people back, was rogues. I was
Oh
so
yeah,
stoked at that.
that was
I
cool.
was
And it's correct me if I'm wrong. That's a female trickster, right?
I think so. Here's what I think is, if this is, sorry, Jesse, Lisa, if he's referring to her as Lisa, I'm going to say that's Golden Glider,
Yeah, that makes sense.
because that would make her Lisa Snart, unless it's
That's
not.
Captain Cold's sister.
Well, okay, yes, but then the other character that was in the background could be a female trickster. Actually, now that you mention it, because she's the one that has this weird helmet on the back of her, like,
Yeah. So it's more
yeah, actually,
technological
right back here,
than superpowers.
possibly.
Yeah, that's what
And then
I'm
you got
thinking.
like Digger Harkness has this weird like boomerang that's like an AI or some kind of like character or whatever. Also, why did they
And he's
just
green.
decided to like make some kind of choices here in the character designs with Captain Cold? uh
He's hot.
they,
He's hot.
I,
And
I
he's
don't
got a
know what they're doing
mustache.
with him, and then they make Wally look like a like uh, I don't know. I'm not complaining about the design itself, but the mullet was definitely a choice.
He's very Gen
Um,
Z. He's got the Patrick
and then,
Mahomes haircut. He's got a fanny pack.
yeah, it's very Gen Z. It's utterly ridiculous as far as character designs. I'm also, like I say, surprised that I am not familiar with Nick Robles's art seeing this, because like he's very good at what
Yeah.
he's doing. Like
Hmm.
everything's spot on for, and it's not a pure like big two house style artwork.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, you can tell that he's got like some indie roots. Maybe he's toning it down. I just like the panel design of a lot of this stuff. It just doesn't feel
Yeah.
as flat as um, a lot of the stuff coming out from Big Two right now, which that's the distinguisher of the absolute and ultimate lines, I think, but especially the absolute line from
Hmm.
DC for me. Like, I don't know if you have, or did you mention that you had not read Absolute Batman or any of
This is
the
my first.
the
This
other
is my first
absolutes?
absolutes I've read so far. But I'm interested. And I've heard really great reviews about Absolute Wonder Woman. So I'm thinking about picking
Yeah,
some stuff up. If it's going to be the best of the best, I'm willing to check it out.
all of the titles have great writing and great art and character. I mean, writer artist combinations that I wouldn't have expected would work as well as they do.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't like Nick Dragata. I'm used to seeing his work in East of West with John Hickman,
Hmm.
but him and Scott Snyder, the Absolute Batman's great. Absolute Wonder Woman's art from Hayden Sherman is like unbelievable. It's
Wow.
mind-blowingly good. It's great. Like it is very unconventional for Big Two stuff. He's also doing the artwork on a book with, hang on, let me see if I've got it here. Yeah. With Dan Waters, called, oh, this is great. Batman Dark Patterns. And this is probably the best. This is an insult to Chip Zdarsky, because he's still writing Batman, but
Hmm.
Batman Dark Patterns is probably the best Batman book out there right now. And it takes place like not concurrent to anything else happening in other titles.
I'm
It's
cool with
just Dan
that.
Waters doing detective centric stuff. And the artwork is kind of bonkers. Um, like the panel design is nuts.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
a great book. and he's also doing Absolute Wonder Woman. Anyway, Hayden Sherman, great artist. Um, what I'm,
I th-
I don't know. What are you hoping for from Absolute Flash in future issues?
I'm hoping for just really good stories. I'm hoping for something new and something different. And I think that's okay. I think when you have an opportunity like this, you don't have to go through and do a whole side story with each rogue villain. You can do something completely different. You could do something totally wacky. You can make it so that Reverse Flash is a good guy. You can make it that, something totally weird. You could do, you know, uh, you could do Iris West is a villain. You could do something super weird. You could do different team ups. You could do something really off the wall. And I think people would be super cool with it. And
Oh
so,
yes,
what I don't want is just to have kind of more like, oh, pop ups of like cameos of different rogues because we get that in regular Flash. We've had it from like since like, the 80s. And I love all those stories. But when you've got something like this, it's like, and you're basically allowing yourself to be like, hey, we're kind of playing with house money. Let's do something. Let's go wild. So I'm
yeah.
hoping they go a little wild with it.
I do like that they. It seems like the Rogues are some kind of military offshoot, but that's and I think I like the possibility of them having powers that are rooted in whatever tech because that's kind of consistent with Flash stuff anyway. But I love the idea where you suggested that like they make Reverse Flash a good guy or make Iris West a villain. I just had a
I think it'd be
thought.
cool. Let's hear it.
What if we do see Barry come back, but he ends up being a Reverse Flash from either a future or a past where things get rewritten because of the Speed Force? Man,
I'd be
that would
cool
be
with that.
wild.
There's some possibilities. I did hear some things where it was like, in the absolute universe, there is no Speed Force. There are no other Flashes, which is why I was surprised when Barry was in the first issue.
Right.
Um, so who knows kind of how they'll sort of explain the powers, whether it is just sort of like this military experiment kind of gone wrong that kind of overflowed, and who else
Right.
does that affect? Does it affect Wally's new monkey friend, which we've seen some previews for,
Yeah.
which really reminds me of Why the Last Man in a cool way.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that's like one of the little things that he saw when he was in the Fort Fox kind of like lab. Um, I also want to ask you what you think could happen with what appears to be Mirror Master on the last page.
Yeah. I uh I wondered if that so that's kind of encouraging that that's the same thing that you ended up getting because that's kind of the conclusion I came to is that
Yeah.
he's looking through like a bunch of different other windows and then the goggles kind of had me like well okay
Hmm.
um I if he's not with the other rogues and his says he's 1 year later. I wonder if he's connected to. Well, maybe he could be connected to it, and we don't really know, like exactly how he's connected to it. But what's wild to me is there's an image in the background of what looks like a gorilla city, like right
Oh.
here. So that's where I'm like, what's going on there? Like I
Hmm.
wondered if the monkey that he saw is Grodd.
I was kind of thinking that too. When I saw those monkeys when he first entered, I was like, is Gorilla Grodd going to be the villain? Is
Right.
that what's going on? Is that what this is leading to? Um, so that's possible too. Maybe Gorilla Grodd is a good guy and it's a sidekick. That would be cool. So there's a lot of
There's
different cool stuff going on.
there's so many loose threads in this, and there's so little that I think anybody knows at this point. It is weird. I wonder how they are going to actually end up explaining the speed powers in this without the speed force. I mean, you can
Hmm.
come up with whatever. The reason that I'm confused about it is the supposed cosmology, the Grant Morrison multiversity map has like the
Hmm.
speed force is like a ring around reality. Um, it's like part of, or it's like outside the source, but it's part of the multiversal cosmology. So I don't know how like this gets accepted from it. So I'm curious. I don't know. We'll see.
And that's where Flash is such a linchpin to the whole kind of DC universe, because there are so many of those underlying things that kind of make up the multiverse. In in Flash was where kind of the multiverse kind of started with Earth 1, Earth 2.
Right.
Um, um, One thing I'm curious
Which even
about.
the title of this issue was like an homage to that because it's called Of Two Worlds.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And in Flash 123, there's that famous cover with Jay Garrick and Barry Allen both running, and
Yeah.
they're in the same world, which is super cool. Um, so who knows kind of how it'll happen. One thing I'm wondering is if there's any potential for an absolute Justice League and what that would mean. I feel like the
I
roots are
mean,
there. How I'd feel about it, my instinct is it's amazing, but my also other instinct is, would that kind of ruin the whole concept? Would it be too weird to have like an absolute Batman team up with an absolute Martian Manhunter? What is that like? And so,
which
what are your thoughts?
that absolute Martian Manhunter comes out this week, and I'm pretty stoked for that. That's probably the book that I'm the most stoked for, just because the redesign is so weird, and
It's
I
the
love
most
Dennis Camp
it's the
and
most
Javier Castro.
interesting, and it's the most kind of risky. But I like that, you know?
Yeah, make it weird. I mean, you're talking about an alien character and making them actually very alien, and I think I'm on board with that.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that a lot. But we'll see where it goes. Um, Coming up on half an hour here. Any final thoughts on Absolute Flash?
My final thoughts on this first issue: I like the fractured chronology. I think I overhyped myself a little bit. I wish it had a little bit more. I'm still gonna keep reading for sure, see where it goes. I'm hoping good things. I'm hoping they take big risks. I hope they go weird. I hope they do some new cool stuff.
Yeah, so do I. I do love this whole universe, and as far as what you said, with the potential of an absolute Justice League, I feel like it's possible. It would be something that might. I agree with you that like the origins are so disparate that it makes me wonder if it would end up meshing very well as like a team book, or
Yeah,
it could. My only question is who writes it.
who writes it? I was
Right.
gonna ask you, who would you want to do it?
Man. Um, it's wild that Dennis Camp is writing the Ultimates with
Okay.
Marvel, which is basically their absolute Justice League. It's basically their Avengers of the Ultimate Universe. I
Hmm.
really like what Dennis Camp is doing with that. I don't feel like you could put that in his hands. I do think that as good as Kelly Thompson has been doing with Absolute Wonder Woman, it would be interesting to see her helm that team, because it seems like she's kind of staked her claim, Wonder Woman, as sort of guardian of Earth. Haha.
I lost you
Oh,
for a sec.
yep. It's all right. I wonder if I just got like one of us has a connection that's a little fuzzy, which is all right. Don't worry about it.
Cool.
Uh, anyway, I was just going to say, I think that it would be cool to see Kelly Thompson take it on potentially. She's the lady writing Absolute Wonder Woman right now.
Okay.
I mean, she did an incredible job on Hawkeye. The closest that I've read to her writing a team book is there were pages on Hawkeye. Also, or actually, there were whole issues where she was writing it as functionally a team book. She also did A-Force, which was great. She also did what was the other one that I'm missing here? Scarlet, which was the G.I. Joe character Scarlet.
Okay.
And that was essentially a team book. It was 4 issues long, but it was great. It was like Scarlet, Storm Shadow, and Jinx. And it was essentially a heist story, but it was, fantastic. So, yeah, I'd put that in Kelly Thompson's hands. Let her write it. Let her write some Absolute Justice League.
We'll see. I think it'd be cool. Everybody would get it.
It would be interesting.
One other quick question for you. Are you a variant guy?
It depends. I am a variant cover guy when they release them, and I have to really like the variant. I don't really pick them up just to pick them up. When there are variants, if it's a first issue of something and I like the artist that did the interior art and they have a sketch cover,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there's a possibility that I will ever see them, I will pick up the sketch cover. I got that done with Jorge Jimenez on the
That's
first issue.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one.
The first Batman that he did, I picked up the sketch cover of that, and so I got Chip Zdarsky to do a cartoon Batman and Jorge Jimenez to do another Batman, and they're both facing each other on the cover of it.
Wow.
And that's it's pretty great. I love it.
That's awesome. Major jealousy right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to put a picture of that in this, but yeah, rad. Well, thank you, Justin. I appreciate you for
Thank you for
taking the
having me.
time and we'll and talking a little Absolute Flash. And thanks everybody for watching. I wish you the best. Take care and have a great week. Peace.
Have a great week.